Right, let's take you to KwaZulu-Natal now, where the Christian Council wants further easing of lockdown regulations as various denominations prepare for Easter. The council is of the view that the country's vaccination program is on track in reaching herd immunity and that further restrictions could result in dire economic consequences. Our reporter Nkosikhona Duma is at the Truevine Community Church in Durban for the story. He joins us now live. Nkosikhona, very good morning to you. What alternatives are being put on the table by the KZN Christian Council to manage COVID-19?
Well, Paul, so the KwaZulu-Natal Christian Council is saying that the country's vaccination program as well as non-pharmaceutical intervention as advised by scientists should be continued. But of course, the restrictions on the number of people gathering should be lifted, given that COVID-19 appears to be less of a threat than when it first emerged. But to expand on this topic, I want to bring in Bishop Nathi Zondi from the KwaZulu-Natal Christian Council. He's also the leader of the Truevine Community Church, from where I'm joining you from. Bishop, what are the way forward now that you're calling? What is the way forward, rather, now that you're calling for the lifting of restrictions, especially on the gatherings of people ahead of Easter?
Well, thank you very much. As KwaZulu-Natal Christian Council, I must say, first and foremost, we fully support the vaccination program. We encourage people to vaccinate, but we also equally fully support the lifting of restrictions. We think that where the country is right now, we are in a position to allow people to gather in numbers, whether indoor or outdoor. We also are encouraging that the government must also consider just encouraging vaccination but not making it mandatory. So we encourage people to vaccinate but not as a mandatory expectation, because when we do that, we believe that it violates people's rights and individual rights. So even as we go to the Easter period, to the Easters, we know that it will help us a lot if these restrictions are lifted, including the curfew, by the way. We think that at the time and the period where we are as a country, we must now allow people or communities and citizens to take responsibility for their own lives. It is important that at some stage we allow the pandemic to be normalized. We allow people to take individual responsibility wherever they are. Whether you know that in aeroplanes, in flights, in kumbis, in taxis, people take individual responsibility. There's no reason why we should not allow that to kick in all the other sectors of society. So as a council of churches in the province, as a parting shot, I would say we fully support the lifting of restrictions.
Well, I want to bring in this topic that the KZN Christian Council has raised previously, and that is the issue of economic consequences of the restrictions, particularly on churches. You are saying that you are concerned about the economic consequences should you go ahead with Easter with these current restrictions in terms of the gatherings of people.
Look, when the pandemic first kicked in, it made sense to impose certain restrictions. But as time developed and as it went on, it no longer makes any sense. Because remember, there are two things here. There's a protection of lives, which I think was really intended for the restrictions. But there's also equally an important aspect to it, the protection of livelihoods. You know, that's what we are talking about, the economy. It's important that people should be allowed, we must remove restrictions in the various sectors, including in the religious sector. Because remember, churches are employers. Yeah, churches are employers. Not only churches, but religious institutions are equally employers like all other sectors of the economy. Most of the times when we talk about the economy, people tend to leave out the non-governmental institutions, NGOs, NPOs, including religious institutions, when in actual fact they are major contributors to the economy because they employ people. Not only that, they also encourage people. You know, when people go to church, they get physical, spiritual nourishment, they get encouragement, they get spiritual input that helps them deal with the various traumas of life. Because remember, a spiritually healthy person is a productive person. So that's the contribution of the non-governmental organizations as well as the churches to our economy. So we fully support the lifting of the restrictions in that sense.